Hello, this is Kevin Anderson, and I'm here with Cindy Anderson. We're here to talk a little bit about building some switches and adapting battery-powered technology to benefit persons with disabilities. And we're doing this as a taped presentation tonight. We wanted to be here live, but unfortunately we had a family member pass away recently, and we have a funeral early tomorrow in Iowa and have to be on the road very, very early. So we're doing this by a taped presentation. We've been doing battery switching and adapting of toys for about 20 to 25 years now. When we were teaching at Southeast Missouri State University, we did this in our classes, and we found that our senior or our junior and senior level students really liked adapting toys. The question always is, why do you bother? One of the reasons we adapt toys is so that students who may have any learning needs are able to participate in activities without actually having to get down on the floor or be able to push a button on the bottom of a toy. They're still able to participate. So we're going to move forward. This presentation is used in a couple different articles we're working on, as well as a book chapter, and so we have some research questions and things that we're looking at. I'll turn it over to Cindy.
This chapter comes from Shigeru Ikuto's book on handmade toys, and we looked at several research questions. What methods of producing battery-powered electrical circuits for LED lights are the safest and most effective for young children? Will one-to-one instruction provide better results with large group instruction for young children to create successful battery-powered circuits? So the first thing that we looked at, we had several tasks, and the first task that we looked at was trying to create actually I have a disability scooter myself, and we were trying to create something that would allow my scooter to be noticeable in crowds of people. And so what we were trying to determine was, could a young child create a turn signal for my disability scooter using stitched circuits? And so you look at the things that we used here. We used alligator clips, we used lily pad LEDs, we used a coin cell battery holder, we used a tiny lily, which is actually a small computer, and its purpose is to determine the how you want the blinking lights to blink. It works with normal needles. It uses conductive thread, which works like wiring for circuits. Initially, I intended to use driving gloves, but those proved to be difficult, so you'll see in some of the subsequent pictures that we actually went with tubular bandage that fits over this glove. So these are the elements that we use to create the project. So we were trying to create a blinking signal cover for my glove for my scooter. So what we had to do was we had to sew a conductive circuit using the tiny lily that would control the blinking lights, the LEDs, and then the battery, the lily pad battery container. So we tried to do this. It took a little bit of work. She wasn't successful the first time, but this picture here shows you the circuit plan. It was designed from actually a circuit designed from a stuffed monster that I found on the internet. But we used it for the glove project itself, and the student was eventually successful. So this is a video on the elements that are within the project, and you can see that it's not directly done on the glove, it's done on a bandage, a tubular bandage. So these are the LED lights. You can see how they blink when the circuit is successful. The circuit is stitched into that bandage, and it goes from the coin cell holder, battery holder, which is right there as you see in the video, to the tiny lily, which programs the blinking, and then the LED lights will blink and operate. These are the links for replicating this project if you have young children that you want to try to do it on. Good luck if you try.
My turn. Now what's kind of interesting in this, she was using a tiny lily to control the blinking lights. The first grader happens to be our granddaughter, and her name is Lily, and she's not so tiny. She's almost 7. But she got kind of a kick out of the fact that the controller was named after her. I said, well, it wasn't named after her, it just was the same name. Well, in task 2, we wanted to make a blinking light that would go on a flagpole so they would attach to the disability scooter, and so it would make it easier to be seen in a crowd. Many times in riding a scooter, people are looking at eye level walking, and they don't notice people who might be using mobility scooters. So by using a flagpole attached with blinking LED lights, especially ones that blink in different colors, it catches people's attention. So we were working with Lily to adapt a string of LED lights that came commercially made with a sticky back so that we could use the battery holder that came with it and make a switch for it. So she worked on that. First time she tried to put that together, it wasn't successful. She couldn't get the switch to work. See, we were trying to do a remote switch that would allow the switch to sit on the handlebar and be controlled easily by the user of the scooter rather than having to reach down and find the battery compartment itself to do it. We found out that the connection at the insulators was not tight and we had a short there, and so she worked on that, and you can see in the picture how the lights look as they're attached to the flagpole. These are flashing white. The one we purchased has a chance to, it can flash blue, it can flash red, it can flash white, or it can do, or green, and do alternating different patterns of that as well. And we haven't yet tried which is the best pattern to be seen. In task 3, we're making the remote switch. And what she was practicing on here is a remote switch for a toy. And you notice we have a pink elephant and we have a dinosaur. The dinosaur in the first picture is commercially available. The pink elephant was just a toy we purchased cheaply at a toy store and made a switch for it out of a dollar store button maker where we drilled a hole and put a push button toggle switch from Radio Shack. Now it's tougher and tougher to find things from Radio Shack in your area, but you are able to find most of these kinds of switches if you order online. I find there are 2 main switches. There's the on-off switch, one that you push and it stays on and you push it again to turn it off. Or there's a momentary switch where you have to hold the switch down and then it operates, and once you let go of the switch, it turns off the toy. And depending on what your needs are for the person with disabilities, it might be they're unable to do the holding, the momentary switch, but they can do the push it on, push it off, that type of thing. You'll notice in these pictures too that her brother Sam is helping out. He really thought these moving toys were great once they were switched. Now, she was able to get this one a little more quickly, but we tried soldering, and soldering is a much better connection than just twisting the wires or using a super glue to hold the wires together. We did find, however, that using a conventional soldering iron is kind of tough and easy to burn the fingers. So we went to a soldering gun like this where you compress it. You're a little farther from the heat tip on that. And it works really well. And here she's making a battery interrupter to go into the battery compartment to break up the signal, the electrical signal between the battery and the battery compartment. And that's where that switch fits.
Well, we found as we worked with our granddaughter that the most successful task was the one where the conductive thread was involved. She had previously worked with some conductive thread circuits, not successfully, but she had an idea how it worked. But she was able to work it and she didn't burn herself, which is a possibility with some of the other things. The second most successful task was adapting the LED lights for my disability scooter. It worked for her, and it didn't involve a lot of or any soldering, so it was safer for her, and she was able to do it. The third one, the disability scooter switch, was a little bit more difficult because it needed to be soldered, and we had bit of an episode with burned fingers despite making a successful circuit. She finally was able to do that, but people who want to replicate this project need to understand that there could be some burned pinkies when they're doing the soldering situation itself.
And we discovered as we're working on this that with a first grader, and she's a first grader who's very into making things. She loves going to the museum in the town where she lives and doing maker activities that they host there at the Children's Museum. She does things like this a lot. And so even she had some difficulty totally by herself working on this. If you're going to use this with a group of students, you definitely would need to have an adult, probably for every 2 kids, working on this, and especially when you're using a soldering iron to be there helping with that part of it. I did find, however, that Liquid Nails makes a product called Fuse It, which either comes in a big caulk tube or comes in a small tube that you can squeeze, and that grabs right away and seems to hold pretty well. Twisting the wires is probably the least successful. Gluing them does work, and then soldering them is the best way to do it. But as difficulty, ability to have a good product goes up, so does the difficulty in making it.
So simple electronic assistive technology can be made by children as young as first grade based upon the case studies that we did with Lily in the picture. Thanks for attending, and sorry we couldn't attend in person ourselves.